there. Welcome to the fourth episode of the Star Wars Podcast Racer. I'm Tyler, and I'm here with my special guest, Nobody. Yep, still just me. I swear I talk to people about coming on here, and I'm sure they'll be here eventually. They said they had to just go out and get some milk, so they'll be back any day now. Yeah, any day. Anyways, enough about what could have been. Let's talk about today's topic. And today's topic is... I don't know yet. I've actually had a few topics running around in my head, and normally you want to decide on a topic before you start talking, but that's not the Podcast Racer way. Now, here at the Podcast Racer, we just kind of randomly start talking and see where things are going to end up. And up to now, that has served us really, really poorly, but eventually it might turn around. You know what? Actually, there is something I do kind of want to talk about. Comics. Recently, I've been watching the original trilogy again with a group of friends. And in between each of the episodes, I've been reading the current canon Marvel comics, main series comics, that are set in between each movie. So, you know what? Let's talk about that. Let's talk. We're not just going to talk about that. I'm going to give a little bit of an overview of comics in general here. We're just going to ramble like we usually do here. All right. So, Star Wars comics are actually older than the movie. See, the original Star Wars comics were being published by Marvel, I believe in did they start in 76? No. I'm pretty sure they started in 77. Early 77. I could be wrong. I'd have to double check, and I don't feel like doing that because I'm lazy. Regardless, either way, the Marvel comics were licensed to just cover the movie. They were just going to adapt the movie, and they did. However, they were so popular that they just continued. I believe it was around 100 issues or so. And they lasted longer than the original trilogy. They kept going well past Return of the Jedi. And those comics are some of the earliest bits of expanded universe canon that we have. Including Jackson, the green space bunny, who's best friends with the gang. It is so funny when you see a cast lineup of the original trilogy characters and these different things, and then you get to the Marvel comics and it's the original trilogy cast and this green bunny. It's so funny. I love it. But yeah, there's those original comics ran. I wish I had the exact years in front of me, but I'm pretty sure it was I think it was a little over 100 issues. I think it was 110 or something. Actually, you know what? I could probably tell you. I think I have them downloaded on my phone. Completely legally, of course. I do nothing illegally. Why am I not cutting this out? I really probably should be cutting this out for legal reasons. Not legal reasons, because again, I've done nothing wrong. Never. 107 issues. That's what it was. 107 issues. And does it give me the year? 1985, I believe? Yeah, it says copyright 1985. So that's a little under a decade. That's 8 years. Actually, let me double check. Not while I'm right here. The original issue has a copyright date of 1977. So yeah, it was early 77. But it started being published before the actual movie came out. If that sounds weird to you, the original Star Wars novel was released 6 months before the movie. So like you could know the entire story of the first Star Wars movie without even knowing that there was ever a movie. Like that was before the first trailer, I believe. If I'm remembering correctly, yeah, the first trailer was Christmas, so December of 1976, that they released the trailer, and that would have been after the novel. So for a lot of fans probably like essentially saw the movie almost as like a novel or an adaptation of the novel. Obviously, it wasn't, but like that's a fascinating thing to think about back then. I mean, I'm old, but I'm not that old. I wonder what it would have been like if you were a science fiction fan and you fell in love with this novel called Star Wars, and then you find out like 6 months later, oh wow, there's a movie of it. That's crazy to think about. Okay, anyway, I am totally off topic here. So the Marvel Comics, they mostly just did the main series. There were some spin-offs. I do know that they did like the droids and the Ewoks comics that they didn't last too long, but those were there. I could be wrong with this because I did not research this. This is off the dome. But I don't believe they really had any true, at least long-running spin-off series though. Maybe like a few miniseries or one-shots, but I mean I will say though the comics industry was very different back then. That like nowadays, if you only have one main series, it's considered like almost a failure. Like there's like 5 ongoing Batman series. It's so ridiculous. But yeah, I think it was mostly just the main series. Interesting enough, this is again kind of a tangent here, but so the in the comics itself, in the main comic, it adapts the original movie first, of course, and it did adapt Empire Strikes Back during it as well. It did not adapt Return of the Jedi. Marvel did adapt Return of the Jedi, but as it's like its own, I think, miniseries, which I don't know why. That's just an interesting thing they did. From what I understand, the comic did go past Return of the Jedi in terms of story. But, yeah. I don't know. I don't have anything to say there. That's just a very interesting fact. I am curious the reasoning why. But not important. What is important is that Marvel did not keep the license to Star Wars after that. I mean, the movies were done. The 2 cartoons had finished. I mean, again, the comic ended 2 years after Return of the Jedi, and at that point, George Lucas pretty much said, like, yeah, there might be more Star Wars later on, but nothing anytime soon. So I guess to Marvel, it was like, yeah, the series is over. So, or the franchise is over, so why continue this comic series if it's, not doing as well? Why pay the licensing fees? So, yeah, Marvel lost the license. I say lost the license, they just didn't renew the license. And then at some point in the 90s, I don't think that there was anything in between the two, but at some point in the 90s, Dark Horse, which is a comic company, picked up the rights for Star Wars comics. And those are the ones that most people think of. Fans that are around my age, those are the ones they think of. They didn't really have... I don't think they had like a main ongoing series that I'm aware of. I will be totally honest. Dark Horse comics, Star Wars Dark Horse comics are definitely more of a like dark area for me where I don't know as much, and there's a few reasons for that. What I do know though is that they did have a lot of different mini series and things like that. I was a huge fan of their Droid series, which was basically inspired by the spirit and the concept of the Droids cartoon series, but done in the 90s, a little less cartoony, but still fun. And I'll be honest, I think that's kind of the main issue for me with the Dark Horse comics that I've tried to read. Because I have tried to read a lot of the Dark Horse comics. And a lot of them just don't connect with me. And it's mainly because they just aren't as fun, typically. Dark Empire, I should have finished that already. I was doing like a live tweet or whatever on Blue Sky with it, and I only got halfway through it. Like as soon as Luke turns to the dark side, I just like, yeah, I'll get back to this later, and I never got back to it. I have listened to I've listened to a dramatization of Dark Empire too, and that wasn't that great. I just Dark Empire wasn't fun. Most of the Dark Horse Star Wars comics that I've read aren't really fun. At least not fun in my opinion. Like things that I find fun about Star Wars. Also, they tended to skew a little bit older, which I always find a little odd when it comes to Star Wars. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm a 32-year-old person. I love Star Wars. But at the same time, part of the thing I love about Star Wars is that it is kind of primarily aimed at kids. Like, George Lucas said, like, you know, Star Wars is essentially made for boys 12 years old. And, yeah, I kind of agree. I mean, I would... At this point, I'd be like, let's don't just say boys, because that seems like it's, you know... Let's include everyone, you know? Let's include girls too and everything, you know? But, I understand that, like, especially if you're doing, like, toys and stuff, demographics, you kind of have to, like, gender it. But, that's, again, way off the point. My point is that, you know, Star Wars is essentially, or is primarily made for kids. And I think that is a good thing. At the same time, I do also understand that, again, in the 90s, or early 90s specifically, Star Wars there was no new Star Wars for kids to watch. They could watch like the VHS tapes of the original, but by that point, if you were a kid that grew up watching the original trilogy, you're an adult now, and you wanted to read adult stories. Like, why make Star Wars stories for kids if all the Star Wars fans are adults, right? Like, I guess that makes sense. But I do remember as a kid trying to read some of the comics and feeling like they weren't for me. They were weird. There was a lot of odd sexualization, too. Which, when it comes to the Twi'lek characters, thanks to that, we have more Twi'leks in the actual movies, because George Lucas really likes Twi'leks. But, yeah, there was a lot of odd sexualization, some darker themes. And I'm not saying that was true in all of the books, because, again, I have barely scratched the surface of the Dark Horse comics. Again, I loved the Droid series as a kid. I bought old used issues of those from the local comic shop when I was a kid. And some of the like adaptations I have read, and they're usually pretty good. But at the same time, at that point, they're adapting something that already exists. The actual original stories, I need to give them another shot. I really do. Because, again, a lot of them are Old Republic. And like I've said, Old Republic's my favorite era. I should read more. I really should. But at the same time, also, none of it's canon now. So it's kind of like, why bother? Which is kind of a terrible attitude to take. I'll get to that some other time. But I can't help it somewhat for me. Like, if I'm looking at this and I'm like, wow, there's like thousands of comic issues that I need to read here, that none of them actually happened in Star Wars now. Why am I going to read the thousands of issues? Which, that leads us to the new canon. So, Dark Horse kept the license from the 90s all the way up until Disney bought Star Wars. Now, the thing is, Disney likes to own everything, and one of the things that they do own is Marvel Comics, so it only made sense for Disney not to license out Star Wars comics when they already have an in-house comic company that they don't have to pay money or whatever. They don't have to split money with him. That's what I meant to say. So yeah, Marvel did get the comics. Now, I have mentioned in my Halloween episode, IDW, and then later Dark Horse once again, did also make Star Wars comics specifically aimed at kids. And I think that's great. The Star Wars Adventures line. I think that's great. But what I want to talk about is the actual main Marvel comics. So they started off with just Star Wars, just a main series called Star Wars, and this series was took place between episodes 4 and episode 5, and just kind of fleshed that out. And honestly, I think that was an inspired choice because that's what the original Marvel Star Wars comics did. They took place of course, at start they adapted the original movie, and then they told original stories set after the movie, but obviously before Empire Strikes Back, because that movie didn't exist yet. And I did not read these right away. Back in 2015, I believe it's been 10 years now. Maybe it was 2014, but I'm pretty sure it was 2015. Regardless, when the comics were coming out, I did not read them. Even though the first issue is one of the best-selling comics, definitely at least of the decade. I think it's actually I think it's on the list of like individual comic issues of all time. I'm pretty sure, but it's definitely. The point is, it sold really well. I was not one of the ones that bought it, and part of the reason is just because, again, Star Wars comics from Dark Horse never really like connected with me, so why bother? Part of the problem too, though, is that I was in a I was in a dark place, just emotionally and stuff too. But that's a whole other conversation. But I was kind of in a dark place when it came to Star Wars as well. I did not take the Disney buyout all that well. Like I was excited to see. I was cautiously optimistic, I should say, actually, to see new Star Wars movies, but I was devastated, absolutely crushed and devastated by the erasure of the original EU, the original canon, which I got to get to that, the whole classification of legends and everything. I will get to that in another episode at some point, but I did not take that well, and I didn't really want to. I didn't really read I didn't do anything with the Star Wars brand for a while there, apart from watching the movies as they were coming out. I did try reading Aftermath, one of the first Star Wars books released after the Disney buyout, and I was not that impressed, to be perfectly blunt. I need to reread it. I didn't really like Aftermath. Point is, though, is that I tried one of the books, and the books is really where Star Wars was living for me for a long time. I loved the books. And if I was having trouble with the books, then the idea of trying the comics, which I already didn't really like that branch for a while, that just didn't appeal to me. So, yeah, I did not read it at the time. Years later, I did start reading, not the main series. I did start reading some of the others. I heard good things about the Darth Vader comic, and so I started reading some of those, and they were really, really good. And that then led me to the Dr. Aphra comic. And let me tell you, Dr. Aphra is one of my favorite Disney-created Star Wars characters. She's great. I should make an episode just about her. But I'm not going to. But yeah, I love the Dr. Aphra comics and the Darth Vader comics. I didn't read the main series. It wasn't until this year that and not just this year, but like really recently. Basically, the Star Wars comics once again rebooted, or not rebooted, but relaunched with a new issue 1 and everything, which I'll get to that in a bit. So I started collecting them. I recently this year I signed up for comics a comic service where I can get like I wish I could remember the name of it off the top of my head. Basically, though, I get comic issues in the mail. You know, I order them online, get them in the mail. So I decided to start doing the Star Wars one since they were starting with a new issue 1. I'll get to that in a bit, but I realized as I did that, I'm like, I have like 125 issues of Star Wars that I haven't read that I probably should. Didn't start reading it then. Then, as I was saying, I was watching Star Wars. I've been doing like a Star Wars watch through with my with some of my friends, and we're getting to the original trilogy. And I'm like, I would love to tell them stuff that happened in canon in between, but most of my knowledge for what happened in between the movies is actually the old canon. So, yeah, you know what? I should really definitely read those comics. So I started to. I found a completely legitimate legal way to read these comics. And I started reading them. So the first volume here, like I said, is set between episode 4 and episode 5. There is 75 issues. And I really, really, really liked it. Like, really liked it. You get to see Luke Skywalker. Like, it starts like right away with like Luke on a mission. Luke, Han, Leia, and all that on a mission. And Darth Vader's there, and like Luke ends up facing Darth Vader really, really quickly. And at this point, Vader doesn't even know Luke's name. I love that. Like, there's that one scene where it's basically like, "You killed my father," and Vader's like, "Yeah, you're gonna have to be more specific." It's like, I killed a lot of people's fathers. I love that. But by the end of that, Vader is like, "Okay, wait, there's something about this kid." He hires Boba Fett to kind of figure out what this kid's name is, and he finds out his name is Skywalker, and pretty much instantly Vader knows exactly what's up. It's great. It's great stuff. Then Vader doesn't really show up much more because then Vader gets his own comic series, which is fantastic. There is a couple of crossovers that they did with the Vader series, and then also the Dr. Aphra series as well. They're pretty good, like the Vader Down and stuff like that. Nothing too too invasive or anything like that. Just some good crossovers with some that's very nice storylines. There's I don't want to just tell you everything that happened in it, but there are again just some really great things. One of the things I actually really appreciated. Oh, actually, you know what? Before I get to that, let me just also say. This is, even though this is not made for kids, this is like a very kid-safe type of what. Like, this isn't made for adults. This isn't like what the Dark Horse ones were or whatever, that really whatever. Like, this feels like the right tone and everything for Star Wars. Yeah, occasionally there's like a swear word or two, but like that happens in Star Wars as well. Even in the original movie, like they say like damn and hell a couple times. Like that's like the worst it gets when it comes to like language. And, there's not, like, a lot of blood and gore or anything like that either. Like, this is good, solid, in my opinion, appropriate tone Star Wars. And sometimes very deep stories. Sometimes just fun stories. And I also really appreciate what they did with the Luke, Leia, and Han dynamic. So, okay, elephant in the room that everybody knows about is the fact that George Lucas did not intend for Leia and Luke to be siblings. They definitely were not meant to be siblings right away. Not even when he did Empire. It was not until making Return of the Jedi when he realized, like, I can't do my sequel trilogy when I'm meant to do it. So, because the sequel trilogy was supposed to be all about Luke's long lost sister, which again was completely separate from Leia. However, he realized he wasn't going to be able to do that, and that left the weird dangling plot thread of, there is another that Yoda said in Empire Strikes Back. So okay, we've got to find somebody that can just be related to Luke. And it's got to be somebody that we know. Otherwise, it's just going to feel like a really weird throwaway line that means nothing. So it's kind of got to be somebody from the main cast. All right. Han, no, because that would mean that Han's like potentially force sensitive too. That plus, here's the more important thing: he wasn't even sure if Harrison Ford was coming back. Can't be Han. Can't be Han. All right. Lando. I mean, maybe not Lando. Chewbacca? Nope, probably not Chewbacca. R2D2 or C3PO? Well, I could see Luke and 3PO having the same father, but no, that's that's not what they went with. It kind of left just Leia. So yeah, they went with Leia being the sister. So because of that, the love triangle that was set up in A New Hope and continued in Empire Strikes Back is almost completely gone in Return of the Jedi. There is nothing there from Luke or Leia. The only thing is like Han, like, oh, you like Luke, don't you? And she's like, he's my brother. Like, oh. Yeah, that's the only holdover there. So, as the original Marvel comics were coming out and everything, obviously they didn't know that either. All they know is that it was set up to be a love triangle, and a lot of people, especially not just a love triangle, but in A New Hope, it's heavily implied that it's going to be Luke and Leia that get together. Like, Han is almost like an afterthought in that love triangle. The very first book that came out after the movie, Splinter of the Mind's Eye, didn't have Han. Very heavily into the Luke and Leia romance. I will get to that someday. Trust me. Woo! That one's insane. So the Marvel comics, heavily showed that Luke and Leia really liked each other. They were set up to be the couple. They were the OTP of Star Wars, definitely. Oh yeah, all in on that. Even once Empire Strikes Back came out, more people were like, "Oh, okay, it's going to be Leia and Han," but not everybody. There were still people that were like, "I think Luke and Leia might go the distance." Luke and Leia did not go the distance. But yeah, it's one of those things that can make some people very uncomfortable, and then makes people like me just find it hysterical. But despite the fact that I do find it hysterical, I really appreciate that the new modern Marvel comics, they just eject that. They do not bring that up whatsoever. They show Luke and Leia having a very, very, very platonic relationship. Even though they don't know they're related yet, they are very platonic, like super platonic. Like, I think I like more platonic than any relationship I think I've had, and I'm asexual. So, like, they arguably overcorrected. And then they also really kind of like explore and expand upon the relationship between Han and Leia, which is really nice and appreciated. But yeah, the first 75 issues, I don't know who the writers are or anything like that, but they all got good art, a lot of really good stories that really help expand the characters, show Luke training a bit as a Jedi, without stepping on the toes of course, what's going to happen later. And even bringing in elements from like Rogue One and stuff. Really nice, really appreciate it. So after 75 issues, they can't. They relaunched it. I don't want to say they canceled it because they didn't cancel it. They didn't reboot it. They relaunched it. This is something that happens all the time in modern comics, and I absolutely hate it. Where they just constantly relaunch with a new number one. So you'll have like, I think at this point there are like 7 different Amazing Spider-Man issue 1s. So annoying. But whatever, that's modern comics for you. However, I'm actually kind of okay with it in this instance because what they did was smart. They were covering everything that happened between episode 4 and episode 5. So now with this, and I think this was in 2020. It was either 2019 or 2020 when this happened. They rebooted or relaunched it with a new number 1 that took place after The Empire Strikes Back, but before Return of the Jedi. So for the next 50 issues, it was all stories set between the two movies. And this run, I believe, was almost completely written by Charles Soule, who did a lot of... He's great. He did a lot of like really good stuff with Darth Vader and stuff. I don't know how much of the original one he wrote, but I believe he wrote pretty much all of the volume 2 here. And it's really good. Right away, there's a lot of good stuff about like Luke dealing with the aftermath of finding out who his father is or might be. He kind of goes back and forth about whether or not he actually believes that Vader's his father, as well as losing his arm and basically everything that happened. A lot of good stuff with Leia dealing with the fact that she's lost Han. Also some really good stuff about nobody trusting Lando because he literally just betrayed them. Just good stuff all around. At least at first. This is where I have a bit of an issue with this run. I think it starts really, really strong. And it does some really cool, fascinating things. Like, it gives Luke a new lightsaber. A yellow lightsaber. Which I believe is inspired by the cover for Shadows of the Empire. Because, if you don't know, Shadows of the Empire was a multimedia project that was done in 1996, I believe? 95 or 96? I think it's... Or was it 97? No, 97 was the main thing. I think it was 95. Holy cow. Mid-90s! I believe it was mostly in 1995, but the N64 game would have been 96, because the N64 came out in 1996. I believe that's what it was. Either that or it was all in 1996, because it was definitely not 1997. I'm pretty sure it was 95. So, Shadows of the Empire was a multimedia project that took place in between episode 5 and 6, and it explained what happened. Why did it take them a year to get Han back, basically. And I really like Shadows of the Empire. I think that... I haven't read the comics, but I love the game. Well, okay, I love a lot. I love the first level of the game, and I like a lot of the other parts of the game. I love the book. Soundtrack's really good. I should read the comics at some point, but I think it's a great multimedia project that they did, and for whatever reason though, like the main cover that they used for it, whatever. That painting of Luke shows him with like a yellow lightsaber. It's a little odd. Like, I don't think he has a lightsaber at all, because I mean he lost his lightsaber and he hasn't built the new one yet. Unless something happened in the comics or something happened in the book and I just don't remember it. I don't remember ever having another lightsaber. So yeah, I believe that's what the inspiration was. But yeah, he has a yellow lightsaber, an old Jedi Temple Guard lightsaber, in fact. And yeah, he uses that for the rest of this run. But he does end up getting a green crystal that, he says, "Oh, I'm gonna make my own lightsaber with it and everything later on." And like it does a pretty good job early on and even in the middle, but like kind of setting up Return of the Jedi. And then it just kind of continues on with just kind of like random missions. Like, I don't know. It feels weird to me. Like, a good chunk of this, especially near the end, is just kind of like business as usual for the rebellion. And like occasionally somebody will mention Han. And it just feels really weird to me because that was like because again, I'm used to like Shadows of the Empire, where the entire thing is pretty much like, oh, we gotta rescue Han Solo, but when are we gonna do it? I don't know. I it was just a little weird for me. Again, I didn't hate it by the end, but I was kind of like, okay, let's just kind of get back to setting up Return of the Jedi, guys. And again, there is some really good stuff near the end. I want to make that clear. I really liked the trial of Lando Calrissian. That was a good storyline. But at the same time, I'm also kind of like, what are we doing? Like, Luke is dressing in his all-black outfit, but he, of course, doesn't have his green lightsaber yet. He's still using the yellow one, even though he has his green his green crystal. It feels weird because this is what especially makes it weird for me. They then just kind of stop. Like the series sort of stops. Like, it does have a final issue 50. Though it's a weird one where, like, it takes the main events of the book are told as a flashback that older Luke is telling Ben Solo. It's weird. It's really weird. It's a good issue. It's just very weird. And also, it does not set up Return of the Jedi. That's what I felt was kind of odd. There's a lot of stuff in Return of the Jedi that is just not set up. That I was expecting to be set up. We don't see the Bothans die. We don't see Luke construct the lightsaber. We don't even see him learn necessarily how to construct it. Like, we see him get the crystal and be told, like, oh, these are like the elements, you're going to have to figure out how to, do it. But he doesn't actually learn or get, like, the material to learn how to do it. He just gets, like, a singular Jedi text that has nothing to do with lightsabers. But yeah, you do see him learn more about being a Jedi, which is nice. I don't know. I just felt like it was not a great... In the end, it was not as good of a setup for Return of the Jedi as the first volume was set up for Empire Strikes Back, if that makes sense. Which is especially odd to me because there's a 3-year gap between episode 4 and 5, but only a 1-year gap between 5 and 6. I don't know. I'm rambling about stuff nobody cares about at this point. So after issue 50, so 125 issues total now, it once again relaunched as, issue 1, and that's the one I started collecting physically this year. And it is set after Return of the Jedi. Not immediately after. I think it's around 5 years. I'd have to double check. I don't know. And I don't entirely care, which is a problem. I'm going to be 100% honest. This isn't gripping me. This new Star Wars series, I don't know what it is. It's just not really gripping me yet. I think part of the problem is that it's telling 3 completely different stories. Because they have Leia with the New Republic as a senator on her own. They have Han on his own. They have Luke on his own. Now, they do occasionally, like, cross back over or whatever, but they seem to be, like, sticking kind of with, like, the 3 of them on their own separate kind of missions, stories type things. Which is fair. It's just, I don't know. I guess I just kind of, like... I think part of the problem is just... I know what this era is like in the old continuity, and I'm still not over it. The old canon, the old EU. So many stories of Luke, Leia, and Han just going off on adventures like the old days, constantly, over and over and over again. I'm going to have to do an episode all about that, too. But, yeah, I didn't get that in the sequel trilogy, which really, really bothered me. And, I'm not getting it in the comics that are set after Return of the Jedi either, apparently. At least yet. It's still early on. I gotta give it time. It's not bad. It just hasn't been gripping me. But, yeah, that's kind of the history of the main Star Wars comics. I don't know if I explicitly said main at the beginning of this episode, but, Yeah, this is about the main comics, not all the spin-offs or whatever. And yeah, I love the new Marvel stuff. I do. Especially the first volume set between 4 and 5. Fantastic. Also, all of them though, I would. Even the new stuff, even though it's not exactly gripping me yet, I definitely do recommend them. Yeah, I guess that's going to be the episode today then. Me rambling for 40 minutes about Star Wars comics. I didn't even really have much of a point, just kind of like talking about I'm just talking. Why do any of you listen to me? It's kind of sad that I'm actually doing this. Like, I'm taking time out of my day. Like, I have a limited amount of time on this earth, and I'm just talking about Star Wars comics. Whatever. I enjoy it. I'll keep doing it. So, next week, I am going to do an episode next week, and I am fairly confident there will be a special guest next week. Maybe not. I might not be able to convince them. We'll see. It's a very special topic, though, because next week is a very special holiday. That's all I'm going to say. Anyways, thanks for listening, guys. I hope you learned or enjoyed something. I don't know. I just appreciate it. Hopefully things will get better, of course. And may the Force be with you.